Cyber grooming. The term might not be familiar, but this phenomenon is already worldwide. Criminals use harmless online gaming sites and social media to contact children with the aim of sexual interaction. Today we'll be speaking with Suzanne Ost, a professor of law at the University of Lancaster in the north of England, who is an expert in child abuse, especially cyber grooming. Professor Ost, you've carried out extensive research on this phenomenon. What can you tell us about it? How have the number of cases evolved in recent years?
Well, I have figures from the UK, and they were figures that were published by the NSPCC, which is the National Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Children. And they, according to the figures that they produced this month for the UK, online grooming crimes have risen by 82% in the last 5 years in the UK. Data that they gathered from UK police forces shows a total of almost 34,000 offences since 2017. And if we look at one particular year, a snapshot of 2022 to 23, there were 6,350 specific offences of sexual communications with a child. And interestingly, the figures also show that 83% of online grooming involved female victims where the gender of the victim was known. But I think it's important to recognise that we don't know how many of these crimes occur, because those figures show an increase in police reporting and recording of crimes, but they don't show an increase in the actual offences. And of course, we'll never know for sure how many offences occur, because so many will still remain unreported.
But already this increase of 82% is an enormous number, which begs the question, what has been done in the UK so far? What are the laws that have been put into place, and what other initiatives have addressed this problem in recent years?
The UK has been quite ahead in terms of how it's dealt with criminal law with grooming. And we have an array of criminal offences in our legal toolkit to help us tackle sexual grooming and cyber grooming. So the first action that was taken was back in 2003. We had the Sexual Offences Act, which brought about a specific offence of meeting a child or arranging to meet a child following a course of sexual grooming, of communications. So that has been in place since that law came into force, which was 2004 when the Act came into force. But since then, we've had further developments. So back in 2017, the law was extended to actually catch not only meeting or arranging to meet a child following sexual grooming, but the sexual communication per se. So that sexual communication that is made with a child has been criminalised in the UK since 2017. So the police no longer have to prove evidence that the groomer intended to meet the child. We've got other offences of arranging to carry out a sexual offence against a child. So we have a lot of criminal offences under our belt.
And what about children who want to get help? How do minors who have been victims of cyber grooming make the step towards contacting the police? In France and Germany, it seems that we currently lack accessible and easy means by which children can seek help. Is this different in the UK?
It's partly that, but it's also the fact that we have public awareness. We have a good level of public awareness, because what we have in high schools and primary schools in the UK is we have awareness. So the children will have in high school, for instance, they'll have life studies lessons where they look at internet safety, where they're told about where to go to if something happens to them online. They're given details, they're given a list of the charities that work online to protect children. In the UK, we have a CEOP, which is the Child Exploitation Online Protection Safety Centre. And so schools will publicise CEOP and other charities, Think You Know, for instance, and ChildNet, so that children know that even if they feel they're unable to go to the police, they can actually report what's happened to them via these online sites. And of course, parents are the other crucial means by which children can report what's happening to them.
We've discussed the role of the police, but obviously parents and families are also very important. From what you know about the perpetrators of these crimes, of their tactics and how they approach children, how would you advise parents on how to protect their children?
Well, again, I think a lot of the onus is on schools to help parents prepare for how best to deal with this situation. Of course, we can't stop children from using the internet. We can't stop children from using their mobile phones, and it would be a huge incursion on their liberties if we did that. We've got to be realistic. So then for parents, the crucial thing is an awareness of the kind of apps that their children are using, social media apps, gaming apps, also live streaming platforms as well. And the schools will regularly send out information in the UK electronically to parents to let them know if there has been a particular risk identified from a particular app, Roblox, for instance, and give that information to parents. And I think it's really important for parents to sit down and discuss these risks with the children openly, and as far as possible to create an environment in which the child feels safe in reporting if anything does happen to them online to their parents, so they then know with their parents who to go to, whether that be the police or whether that be through one of the online charity groups which I've mentioned.
What we've understood from this situation is that there doesn't seem to be a single simple solution to make this phenomenon die out. We perhaps need several approaches. One of the questions posed by our online community was, what can normal citizens do to protect children? Are online patrols possible? Do citizens, legally speaking, have the right to protect children? As it seems, we need a lot more forces to fight this phenomenon.
Aside from what I was saying about making sure that for parents, making sure their own children are aware, I think the crucial thing is to avoid, to recognise that the police are the experts in this. So the danger if we had some kind of citizen network or citizen group that went and tried to target groomers, the danger is things can easily go wrong with that. As I said, the police are the experts. They know what they're doing. They know how to perform sting operations and how to effectively masquerade as a child. They also know what kind of victims groomers are looking for. So they know the particular vulnerabilities that groomers will target. And the danger of some kind of citizen approach is that this could be, as we know, cyber grooming is a global phenomenon. The police are going to know if this is a particular case of international or global grooming. And if a citizens network group steps in, what they do could interfere hugely with a bigger international law enforcement drive to target this particular case. So certainly, although some kind of citizens network might be well-intended and well-informed, I think we should always leave this to the police, because they are the ones who know what they're doing and who are most able to catch these perpetrators.
Just one final question, Professor Ost. As we sit here talking about cyber grooming, this crime is nevertheless continuing to happen. Your studies have found that there are already new techniques developing. Can you tell us a bit more about what they look like?
It's not just cyber grooming. I think that's the thing we need to recognise and to remember, that whilst grooming can occur via modern technologies, via the internet, other forms of grooming occur. I think we should never lose the fact that the research has shown that a child is far more likely to be sexually abused by somebody they already know than they are by a stranger on the internet. So that might be, sadly, it might be a family member, it might be a friend of the family, and we can't forget that. We have to remember that. There are other forms of grooming as well, which occur in offline contexts. So in the UK, a type of grooming that has been well publicised for the past 10 years, and we've had a number of cases emerging, is a type of grooming which I call group localised grooming. And that's where you have a group of men who in a particular area in the UK will target vulnerable female young teenage victims. One of the men will pretend to be that girl's boyfriend. There'll be text messages. So there's often some form of modern communication technology used. But then there's the meetings, and the girl thinks that this is her boyfriend. But once that relationship of trust is established, then that man can then use this girl, this victim, for the sexual gratification of not only himself but other people who are members of these groups. So that is a particular form of grooming that is covered a lot by the media in the UK at the moment.
Thank you, Professor Ost, for giving us an insight into what's happening in the UK. where the situation in certain areas is quite different from over here in France and Germany. It's very interesting to get to know your work better. Good luck in your future research.